Yo.
Welcome back, everyone, to Power Up 5 2022. So we're ready now with Descent by ZELLLOO, so you can take it away, ZELLLOO.
Thank you, Garbezo. I'm still ZELLLOO or ZELLLOO. This is Descent. This is an awesome first-person shooter from 1995, developed by Parallax Software. Just as a heads up, this game is very motion-heavy, with a lot of 3D movement, and if you feel a little sick while watching this game due to the motion, please turn stream off and rest. I'm just giving that warning out now. Before we start, I actually have a specific save file that I need to load. So we're going to load this save file right here, and then we're going to immediately exit out. This actually sets up a glitch for later, the only useful glitch in this run. But otherwise, we're going to start a new game. We are going to play training difficulty because it is the easiest, but by no means is this run easy. This is probably one of the most difficult early FPS runs. But we will go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so Descent is a really awesome first-person shooter from the mid-90s, and it's notable for being the very first full 3D first-person shooter and having 6 degrees of freedom of movement. So that means I can move in the X, Y, and Z axis, and I can also rotate in all of them. So this gives us a lot of freedom in the level design and just being able to move around, which is really cool, but also very difficult for a run. The goal of everything is to get to the end of a level, find key cards as needed, blow up a huge reactor, and leave before the whole run explodes. So I'm going to quickly explain the movement mechanics here because I know this is not... This is a pretty common mechanic right here where if you were to strafe in older FPS games, like move in 2 directions or more at the same time, the game would add those movement vectors together, and you would actually move a lot faster. This also applies to Descent, but since I have motion in 3 axes, then we can do what's called tricording, where I'm going to move in 3 directions at the same time, and I'm going to move roughly 70% faster. And the catch with this is that it's very difficult to control this. So you're going to see me look at weird angles a lot as I try and line up these angles. I'm also going to die right here. This game has death warps. Interestingly, this game has points and extra lives, which is pretty rare for a game in 1995. So we'll have some death warps in the route right here. But pretty much the goal of each level is going to remain the same. Just get through everything as fast as you can, blow the reactor up, and get out. And try not to bump into everything, because the physics of this game are very advanced for a game from the mid-90s. There's a lot of momentum on your... We're flying a big ship, and there's a lot of momentum on your ship. And enemies also carry momentum, too, if you were to bump into them. So a lot of running this game well is taking corners very smoothly and finding your angles as fast as possible and not getting hit by other stuff that's going to slow you down. So it's a very difficult game to run. The movement is so complicated to the point where I have most of my movement on my left hand on my keyboard, and I'm rolling with extra buttons on my mouse. So I wasn't able to slip past that Hulk right there. So this game, I did mention the extra lives earlier. You can get extra lives in 2 ways. You get an extra life every 50,000 points, and you can also find extra lives in the levels. And we're actually going to pick one up in the reactor room coming up. Sometimes enemies hold items, sometimes fixed, and this one, thankfully, there's a tan Hulk up here that always has an extra life that we're going to grab on our way out of here. So we're just going to get out of here, and that does it for the moon level. So we'll start out on Earth's moon, and we're going to start making our way towards Mercury. We're on Venus now, and we're going to just clear out those mines and then make our way towards the outer part of the solar system. So this level starts introducing more enemies to us. We start getting these green lifters in the way. Lifters are very annoying. All melee enemies in this game are really annoying, to be honest. Melee enemies just kind of charge you, but they not only have really large hitboxes. Whenever you bump into a normal enemy, you'd be able to push them a little bit. Melee enemies will just stop you dead in your tracks. So you just kind of need to avoid them as best you can or kill them, because you're not going to be able to push them around like you would with some other enemies. So we picked up a new primary weapon in this game. There are 5 primary weapons and 5 secondary weapons in First Descent. This is the spread fire cannon. It has a little bit more DPS than the dual lasers, so we're going to hold on to this for a little bit while. And we're going to get some other weapons later on, but this is really good for the early game. This level also introduces cloaked enemies into the mix. We'll be able to use some cloaks later too, but cloaked enemies are pretty difficult to spot. The shimmer effect is not very easy to see. So we're gonna hopefully get past these lifters right here. I'm gonna use some missiles. I picked up some homing missiles and proximity bombs on the way to the red key, and we're gonna drop our bombs right here so we can keep those lifters off our tail. Like, we're gonna use pretty much everything except one primary weapon. Like, almost every weapon has some kind of use in this game, which is pretty nice. So we go ahead and get on out of here. Alright, so since I'm on this level of Venus, now's a good time to quickly talk about the story. It's pretty simple. You are simply a mercenary working for the Post-Terra Mining Corporation. An alien virus took over all of these mining robots on all of the mines, and the robots just killed everyone there. So it's your job as the mercenary to wipe out the infested mines and rescue any hostages. Unfortunately, we're not going to be saving any hostages in this run, so gotta save the frames. So I did pick up a new primary weapon. This is the Vulcan Cannon right here. Vulcan Cannon is not very strong, but it's still useful in the run. It fires very, very fast pseudo hit scan projectiles, and this game has no real hit scan projectiles. Hit scan is where things would hit instantly the moment you fire, but the projectiles are very fast. They basically are hit scan. So what is the Vulcan's use in a run? It's basically a glorified door opener. As you can see, opening doors takes some time. So if you can set things up to where you can open up doors ahead of time and just be able to fly right through, then you want to do that whenever possible. So we try and set that up with the Vulcan whenever possible. So picked up a Sega Saturn logo right there. That's our invincibility for the game. It pretty much does exactly what it says on the tin. Just makes you invincible for 30 seconds. Very, very handy power up. So we can use that to just power right through the reactor room. Oh, get out of the way. Right, and that finishes Venus. So this takes us to Mercury, where we're going to deal with the two worst enemy types in the run. This level introduces the light drillers and the red hulk. So you've seen like these big hulking robots that shot missiles and lasers. The red hulks are by far the worst. They have a ton of health. Like, the developers, when interviewed about this game, they were just like, why did you give red hulk so much health? It was a mistake. And it's like, oh. But red hulks not only have so much health, they also fire homing missiles, and homing missiles hurt, so they're very deadly. And then the light drillers are these guys with the Vulcans that like to scream like that, and the Vulcan does a lot more damage with them than yours, and they just like to hit you whenever possible. So thankfully they can be taken out pretty quickly. They don't have a lot of health. They can die in one homing missile. So as long as you deal with them before they become like active, then it's fine. So we're gonna find a quick secret right here. Gonna grab another extra life and a cloak. Cloak is really good in this game. Whenever you're cloaked, enemies will not see you, they will not fire at you, and they will not do anything. And it's only once you make a sound by either firing your gun or bumping into something that the enemies know where your current position is. They'll fire at your current position, but you can still keep moving while that's happening, and they will just completely miss you. So yeah, cloak is really good. Alright, so this level has a couple interesting things. First, we're gonna have a pretty extensive death warp coming up. So we did a death warp earlier on level 2, and it was a pretty small one. This one's gonna be a more significant death warp, because coming back from the yellow key is a long trip that we don't want to take again. But there's one catch with this. Whenever you die in this game, whatever gear you have is scattered where you die. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to give up our spread fire right here, but it's very needed as soon as we get around this hulk. So we're just gonna shoot the lava until we explode, death warp back to the beginning, and now we're gonna take this extra trip right here. I'm gonna grab a safety 1-up for marathon safety, because this game is really brutal and some later levels can really mess me up. We normally finish this game with the exact amount of lives we need, so I'm gonna grab 1 extra for safety just in case. So we're gonna take the red key, we're gonna start heading to our first boss fight, and now's a good time to talk about the glitch I set up by loading the save file at the very beginning of the run. So by setting up that save file in a very specific way with a timer, we load that save file before starting a new game, and the very specific timer for that gets kind of confused, basically. And because of this, the boss for this level would normally start teleporting around the room and get cloaked. Well, by loading the save file and screwing up the timer, this boss is no longer going to teleport around the room, and we're going to be able to just take him out without any problems whatsoever. He's not going to be launching anything at us. He's just going to be firing a couple smart missiles at us here and there, but he's not going to be like any actual threat. So he's down. We're going to pick up some homing missiles on the way out. We're going to hopefully get out of here in time because sometimes this game crashes. And thankfully the game did not crash, so we are out of Mercury. So that ends the Mercury levels. Alrighty, so into Mars. We get introduced to more enemies here. That was a lot of drillers. We get introduced to 2 new types of lifters. We got the like the medium lifter. I think those are medium lifters, or maybe it might be heavy lifters. And then we have these secondary lifters right here that just kind of get in the way. The wide ones with the claws right here, they're very annoying because they actually have a surprisingly large amount of health, and they like to get in the way a lot. So we're going to try and use some homing missiles to clear them out as we go. But here, layouts for the levels get more and more complicated as we go, and I actually really love the level design of this game. There's just a lot of really cool things going on. Like I said, this is like the very first true 3D FPS, and they actually managed to capture what it's like being in a very cramped corridor very well, but it works out really well with the mechanics. It's just a really fun game to play and explore. And there's a lot of parts of levels that we're just simply not seeing because we're taking the most direct routes. So we're going to fire one homing missile right over here to kill that lifter, or that driller blocking the exit. These spider bots can be annoying because they, depending on your luck, they can either drop 0 small spiders or up to, I think, 5 small spiders when they die. So a bit of luck involved with that. Oh, come on, let me out. Drill all these lifters blocking my way. Even this guy wants to get in my way. Let's get out of here. I do see some mentions in chat about source port, so I'm actually not playing the original DOS release. I am playing this through a source port, and if you don't know what a source port is basically a version of the game specifically compiled to run on modern operating systems. So this is using the Rebirth source port. Specifically, this is using version 0.58.1, I think, which is the last version that supports the glitch before it was patched out. So basically with the Rebirth source port, you get good compatibility with playing it on Windows 11 like I am, while still having like a whole bunch of nice quality of life features like widescreen support, nice locked frame rate. I really do recommend, if you want to try this game, definitely pick up the Rebirth source port. It makes things so much easier to set up, and it's just a more pleasant experience overall. We're going to get this last key right here. That's a bad position for them. Okay, so we talked about death warps earlier. We're actually going to do a death exit coming up. So if you die during the exit countdown, you will exit the level, but you do lose all your equipment still, and you still lose a life. But it's much faster to do this than actually head to the exit. So we're just going to die, we leave the level, and we do lose all our gear, but that's okay, because right here in this little secret area, here's a fusion cannon, which is the best primary weapon in the game and the one we're going to be using for most of the remainder of the run. So the fusion cannon is a charge attack. You can charge up, do more damage. If you can actually overcharge it and do a lot of damage to yourself that way. But this thing does ridiculous amounts of damage, and the bolts are super huge, which makes it easy to hit enemies and hit walls. But this is the weapon we're going to use for most of the rest of the game here. It's just really, really, really super good. And we'll have our different kinds of missiles too as we go along, because they're still very useful. So we get introduced to heavy drillers here. Ironically, heavy drillers are easier to kill than light drillers. They shoot plasma, but plasma is nowhere near as dangerous as Vulcan, because it's nowhere near as fast. Okay, so we're gonna grab some missiles here. Hopefully that's enough damage there. Good. So you can see we're taking on these Red Hulks really quickly now with some homing missiles and fusions. My health is pretty low, but that's okay. We're going to take a secret coming up right here. There's a hidden invincibility right here in this corridor. So now we're going to book it to the reactor as fast as we can to make this invincibility last. So the fusion cannon is not only good against enemies, it's also good for dealing with the reactors, because the reactors have such a large hitbox that the fusion cannon actually will hit twice, so it's really good. I also didn't mention this earlier, but reactors actually gain more and more health per level, so you have to do more and more damage in order to blow them up. And I had to do a backup strat right there. Thankfully it went well. It's really hard to get into that room without bumping the Hulks. They like to move in your way a lot, and I just didn't get very good luck with them, so had to take a backup, but we're out of there. So that finishes Mars. So into Jupiter. Jupiter is by far the most difficult planet in the run. There is a lot of lava. You might have seen some of the lava pits in the earlier levels. There is lava everywhere in Jupiter. And Jupiter, lava not only hurts you if you touch it, but lava also splashes whenever it's hit by any kind of projectile. So you can actually splash the lava in your face for a ton of damage. All right, we've got an early cloak. I don't like taking the early cloak, but this works. There's two different ways this can go. I missed that shield. I would have liked it. So we're just going to try and make this cloak last as long as possible here. Just kind of get around everything. Unfortunately, you cannot pick up another item of the same type when one is active, so I can't take this cloak right here, and it takes too long for it to, my current cloak to wear off, so we're just going to skip it. And the Sailor Moon theme song. Hey, we did start at the moon. Alright, so this is a bit of a scary reactor room coming up. There are a bunch of these mine layers that get introduced in this level, and proximity bombs that they lay do a ton of damage. So I'm going to be very careful to hopefully not die coming up. There are some shield drops I can pick up. There are very few static shield drops in this game, so it's just kind of you just have to kind of be careful and pray. Some enemies can drop shields, but it's not very often that they do. So we're going to use some homing missiles to clear these guys out. I'm going to hopefully get the shot off. Nice. So one shot of that reactor. We're going to get out of here before I blow up. Pick up some extra homing missiles for the next level. And let's get out of here. Okay, so we've talked a bit about death exits and dropping our gear. I want to keep my fusion cannon because the fusion cannon is really good, but I don't want to leave it somewhere because it's really hard to find. So what we're actually going to do for this is we're going to set up a special death where I can drop my gear all in a very convenient spot right in front of this red door that I'm going to have to come by later. And we can pick it up on the way out while we do other stuff. So we've got to spread fire for now. This should be good enough to get the next couple of keys. We're going to grab this yellow. There's the Mega. So the Mega, we'll use that in just a bit. The Mega is really good for some very good purposes coming up. Just need to get past this driller. I didn't have any homing missiles. We'll do that. Okay, so Mega Missile. So we're going to grab the great key. Mega Missile, if you're caught in the explosion, you pretty much just instantly die. So it's good to death warp. So we're going to grab some homing missiles right here because they're really good. I'm going to pick up all my gear that I left behind. I'm going to blow this reactor up. Thankfully, I didn't die. That was very close. And this brings us to the hardest level in the run. This is by far the most difficult level, and it's very likely I'll die. Thankfully, that lifter actually gave me 2 shield drops immediately, so that's very good luck. So that improves my chances considerably, and I've got some extra shields and homing missiles to make this work. So we get some new enemy types, we get some laser bots. They're not very threatening, thankfully, but they do drop quad lasers, which are pretty nice in a casual playthrough. I missed that shot. Okay, so I'm going to clear out as many of these Red Hulks as I can, because they are going to get in my way and I have to travel back and forth, so we're just going to do a little bit of cleanup here. So thankfully I do have one more Mega Missile. We're going to use that in the corridor coming up. There is a Red Hulk and 2 drillers past this hallway. And we're going to fire that Mega Missile off, make sure it doesn't body me. And we're going to grab that key and get out. And my health is really good right now. I normally enter this next hallway with about 20 usually. So we're going to actually be able to skip the extra shields, which is nice. So I did leave one driller alive in here. I don't know where he is. He's somewhere in the room. We'll get him later. Just need to get past these Hulks here. Now's a good time for the Vulcan, since I don't need to kill anything just yet. Use this to save a little bit of time on opening doors. Okay, so this level has another death exit coming up. It's a very long way to the exit because it's right where that red key was, and that's very, very slow. So we're just gonna take our fusion right here. We're gonna shoot, blow it up, and then blow ourselves up. So that skips a long backtrack. Unfortunately, I do lose the fusion cannon for now. We can get another one in the next level, but we're gonna have to make do with just getting through this with only dual lasers, which is not the easiest considering the ending exists. The spread fire will at least help us get around the level for now. But for the most part, this is going to be pretty clean up to the reactor room. So Garby, if you've got any announcements you want to make, now's a good time.
So I guess I'll mention that there are shirts from the Yeti available up until the end of this event. So there's only another day for the shirts, and there's a lot of really great shirts by the Yeti, and $5 from each one will go to benefit the Trevor Project. And I definitely got one of those from like the random number generator, and there's just so many good ones. So definitely recommend checking those out.
Yeah, I can highly attest to the quality of the shirts from Yeti. The ones that they make for Power Up Pride are awesome.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's the yellow key. We're just going through a little bit more maze stuff. Not a whole lot to talk about with this level. We'll talk about the team a little bit. Parallax Software was actually developed by, mainly designed by Matt Toshlog and Mike Koulas, if I remember right. And they actually worked on flight simulators back in the 80s together. And they decided, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we made like a space game or something? And thus, Descent finally came into play in the mid-90s. And it was marketed as a Doom killer because Doom was very popular, as anybody who's seen my streams knows. Didn't quite overtake Doom on the marketing, but it was a very solid game in its own right, and it's very loved. So, anyways, we're at the reactor room. I did get a lucky cloak drop, thankfully. So, thankfully, these 4 Red Hulks will not really be bothering me all that much. So, we're just gonna circle, strafe around, blow this reactor up. That should be good, and we can get out of there. I should also mention that cloak drop is random, so if you don't get a cloak there, you are in a lot of trouble because it's very easy to die in that room. Like, it is ridiculously easy. Okay, so we still have no fusion, but we can make do with another spread cannon for now. We are finally out of Jupiter, so all the really, really hard levels are over. There's just a couple scattered hard levels from here on out, but most of the run should be pretty smooth. Aside from maybe the last planet. Saturn doesn't have a whole lot going on. We're just mostly just going to be having some very efficient navigation here and fighting a lot of Hulks. So we did talk a little bit about drops. Like I said, drops in this game, shield drops in particular, are pretty rare. Sometimes other drops are a bit more common, like Red Hulks are very prone to giving homing missiles. Tan Hulks will usually give concussions. We try and aim for a few enemies, not only to get the points that we need for extra lives, but also sometimes stock up on some ammo, which is very needed. In particular, I actually do want homing missiles by the end of this level. Because we need them for the end of the next one. So thankfully, they come down here. There's a nice free fusion cannon on the way to the key. So very convenient. So now we are a flying death machine again, which is good. This is actually going to be the very last level where we can one-shot the reactor. Unfortunately, the fusion cannon does have a cap on the amount of damage it can produce. So after this level, reactors will just have too much health for us to be able to destroy with just the fusion. So we'll have to start working in other weapons or fire multiple shots. But thankfully, we got a nice clean kill there. If this Hulk will let me out, that'd be nice. Thank you. So now we get introduced to the platformer bots. Platformers are pretty easy to deal with, at least the ones in this level. There are 2 platformer bots. One fires lasers. They just kind of have a bit of health, but nothing dangerous. In the next level, we're going to start getting... Is it the next level? It's soon. We start getting introduced to missile platformers, which are far more dangerous. Oh, it's actually the end of this level we start getting introduced to missile platformers. They fire waves of concussion missiles. And even on training difficulty, they pack a wall up and they move faster than you'd think. So I'm gonna be very careful in the exit room coming up. I need to start charging here. Like I said, we want more homing missiles, so I need to kill this red hole here. Okay, I got 2 of them, so I have the minimum I need. You'd want at least 2. Shield's not looking that great. I'm gonna grab this backup shield just in case. We're gonna get a cloak drop here. Yeah, we will. Okay, so we've got a cloak for safety, which is really good. We can just skip right past these enemies. I will say this game has awesome music. The composers for really the entire Descent series did a really great job of composing, like this industrial techno feel. The music of this game is really good, and I do highly recommend listening to it. Okay, so that brings us to the last level of Saturn, where we get introduced to these gopher bots. They're just like little mine layers, and they're really annoying because they actually have quite a bit of health, and they like to clog up the corridors. So we're going to hopefully get this nice shot here. Thank you. Nice shot. I actually managed to destroy all 3 Hulks. So the thing about charging the fusion cannon in this game is that you start shaking after you charge it, and the more you charge, the more you start shaking, and the shaking is completely random. So, whoa, word. I'm glad I had invincibility. I don't know why they were there. So let's get rid of these gopher bots here. But yes, the shaking on the fusion cannon is very difficult to control, so it's it's a bit of a challenge to aim like the really tricky shots like the reactors. Okay, so if my health remains good, I can skip an invincibility in this level. What are you doing in that corridor? That's a first. I'm gonna hope for a shield drop from one of these lifters coming up. I would like a little more than this, but I can make this work if I need to. There's one. Okay, so now we should be in good shape. That is not the right hole. Navigating this game is hard. Anybody who's played it casually was like, oh yeah, I got lost a lot. Like, you are just not really seeing how huge these levels really are. Like, I think the level with the first boss, where we just went straight from key to key and death warped, we played maybe, I don't know, 30% of the level. Like, it's pretty extensive. Alright, so we're gonna charge up our cannon here. We're gonna hopefully get around these drillers. Get a nice clean shot. Okay, now we're out here. It had just enough health. Okay, so we've got another gear drop in this level as we head into Uranus. Get your planet jokes out of the way now. So we're gonna set up a death warp coming up right here. Where am I? I am lost. There I am. So we're gonna set up our gear right here. So we have to go get the yellow key. The yellow key is very far out of the way. So it's just very nice to take this death warp coming up right here and then just collect our gear again rather than run back and forth. I do like the music for this level. Like, unfortunately, you only hear most of the tracks once or twice throughout the entire game, and this only plays in this level. If anybody's played the Lawnmower Man, this is the most Lawnmower Man-esque track in the whole game. Oh, there's that key. There's that key. So we've got a kind of funny exit room coming up here. So there's a bunch of these lifters in the exit room. There's just a few of them in here, as you can hear them all behind me. Oh, look at them. Hi. Bye. That's a lot of lifters. And the combinations of enemies will just get even more nutty later. There's one room in particular that will just destroy your ears. Alright, this level's pretty straightforward, so Garby, if you got any donations or announcements, this is a good level for them.
Okay, so I guess I'll mention that we are nearing the end of the marathon, and so we only have I think about 10 or so hours to unlock the Hollow Knight incentive, and that's only at $659 out of 3,000. That'll add Hollow Knight to the finale of the marathon. So definitely get your donations into that. That'll be really fun.
Yes, please donate for more marathon. We always want to see more marathon. We want to let Allison shine.
Oh, absolutely.
This is like the worst maze to navigate. It's so easy to just get stuck or lost in this room. Okay, so all that's left is just the reactor, which is thankfully a pretty simple one. But the next level coming up is actually one of the more difficult late game ones. Next level has a gimmick. Oh, I need to not die. That would be very nice to not die. Okay, should be good. Okay, so the next level is the most RNG heavy level in the game. The 3 keys are actually held by keybots right here. And unfortunately I just missed my shot. Okay, we got the second shot. So these bots just kind of roam around randomly holding the key, and we just have to get it before they start wandering off too much. So thankfully the yellow one's pretty easy. It's the red one that worries me the most coming up. We also want shields because this has a pretty cramped reactor room that's very easy to die in. So hopefully we'll get at least one more shield drop, but this is enough to work with if not. Oh, that bot went up there. Where is he? He's right on top of me. Okay. That's not as much health as I'd like, but I think we can make this work. Okay, so I'm gonna toss some homing missiles around here, use them to clear out the enemies. I'm gonna blow this reactor up, and we're just going to death warp. We're gonna death exit. Saves just a little bit of time, and we don't need weapons for now, so we'll go ahead and do that. So while we make do with basic lasers, we're gonna finish up Uranus as a planet. This is where we're gonna grab 1 extra life later on. And you can hear those drillers scream. Yeah, I didn't really talk too much about like skips, because there aren't really any skips in this game, surprisingly. Despite its source code being a puzzle, according to Ronckley, this game is actually surprisingly very well built. And aside from one secret level that we don't even visit in this run, there are actually no known skips in this game. So, just a little bit of info right there. Anyways, that's the last extra life that we're going to pick up from just picking it up. We'll get a couple more from points. But the reactor room's a little bit of a puzzle. They definitely tried to make some interesting gimmicks, and this reactor room is one where I have to actually fly into these rooms right here to make the reactor appear. Okay. And now we can leave. And that finishes up Uranus and into Neptune. Alright, so the first 2 levels of Neptune are actually pretty difficult. Where it actually starts off with a gear drop. We're gonna get rid of this Red Hulk first, and then we're gonna drop our gear right here in this little corridor. So we're gonna save that for the very end of the level once I have all the keys. So thankfully there is a free fusion cannon in this level that we're gonna pick up. But health is kind of at a premium here, and corridors are very tight. So we're gonna hopefully not get tagged by too many missiles. So we're gonna grab the fusion here. Okay, that's the yellow key. Uh-oh. That's not a good health situation. Okay, so I'm gonna start counting here. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're gonna start charging. There's a couple of Red Hulks right up here at the very end that we're just gonna shoot. Get rid of them. And thankfully we are cloaked, so we can just drop straight down this corridor, get the key,